David Mundell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it won't surprise you that I want to focus on the impact of the gracious speech on Scotland in the context of last week's Scottish Parliament elections. However, before I do, I want to make two other points, one directly related. As we all know in this House, elections always involve winners and losers, and the loss of my former colleague John Scott, the MSP for Ayr, for the last 21 years by just 170 votes was keenly felt across the Scottish Conservative family. John had been Deputy Presiding Officer of the Scottish Parliament, a committee chair, front bench spokesman, and was an assiduous constituency member. He will be much missed right across the Parliament. Can I also welcome the measures in the gracious speech to ban conversion therapy, an issue on which I've campaigned cross-party, along with many other colleagues, and express the hope that such measures can be brought forward in conjunction with the devolved administrations so that we can have a uniform approach to this abhorrent practice across the United Kingdom. I will be certainly highlighting the need for that during the consultation. Turning to Scotland, I particularly welcome the Government's practical commitment to the Union in the gracious speech and look forward to the transport infrastructure investment promised to improve connectivity within the United Kingdom, needed nowhere more than on the A75 in my constituency, a key route between England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. This Government's commitment to working constructively with the Scottish Government for the benefit of the people of Scotland has been evident throughout the pandemic, not least in the vaccine rollout, and was evidenced again in recent days by the Prime Minister's initiative in bringing together the UK Government and devolved administrations to work together to fully overcome the pandemic and plan for recovery. That is where Nicola Sturgeon's laser focus should be, and not on talk of another divisive independence referendum. Now, despite the outrageous assertions we've heard from the Westminster leader of the SNP here today, the real story of the election on the 6th of May in Scotland, as Alex Massey highlighted in today's Times, was the incredible success of the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party. We returned 31 MSPs and gained over 100,000 additional votes to deliver our highest ever share, and we stopped the SNP majority just like we promised the voters we would. More than that, we proved that the 2016 election was not a fluke or solely down to the unique personality of Ruth Davidson. The Scottish Conservatives are Scotland's second party and the main opposition. The Scottish people have voted to elect a Scottish Parliament without an overall majority. They could have given the SNP the majority the Nationalists themselves set as the test for another referendum, yet instead they have sent a strong message that people in Scotland want parties to work together now in the national interest of managing the coronavirus pandemic and delivering our economic recovery. The Scottish Conservatives will work constructively with all parties to rebuild our country. Of course, as after all recent elections in Scotland, we are now told that every single person who voted SNP was doing so to bring about independence and another referendum. Strange then, Madam Deputy Speaker, that despite the SNP registering with the Electoral Commission the slogans "Vote SNP for Indy Ref 2" and "Both votes SNP for Indy Ref 2" as planned ballot descriptions with the Electoral Commission for last Thursday's election, they instead used Nicola Sturgeon for First Minister. So the SNP literally removed Indy Ref 2 from the ballot paper when it could have been put on it and left no room for doubt. Of course, it's clear why they did it, so that they could claim that those people who responded positively to Nicola Sturgeon's handling of coronavirus could have their vote used to support independence when that was never their intention. Indeed, Nicola Sturgeon told Glenn Campbell of BBC Scotland only last Tuesday that you should, of course, vote for her if you wanted her leadership, but not the distraction and division of another referendum. How disappointed such people must have been that when, even before all the votes were counted, the SNP again pushed their divisive plans for a second independence referendum. And we've heard it here again today, and I'm sorry, I think you're going to hear more of it. Not only is this the wrong priority for our country, it is a betrayal of every voter who supported the party out of a desire for leadership through the pandemic and into recovery. The SNP have no moral authority to hold a second referendum. They failed their own test to secure a majority and have been left as a minority government.
Would my honourable friend give way on that point?
Indeed.
I'm so grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker, for my honourable friend giving way. Is it not the case that more people voted for pro-unionist parties in the recent election than voted for separatist parties?
Indeed, in the constituency ballots, that is indeed the case. But the point I think that I have just made is that indeed many people who voted SNP did so on the basis of the handling of the pandemic and not in a call for an immediate independence referendum. And that's why the SNP now need to listen to the Scottish people and focus on getting our country through this crisis.
The honourable gentleman's speech is always when he's making these points, but I'll just casually remind them the Conservatives lost 2 seats in the constituency vote, and perhaps he could maybe outline to his honourable friend just exactly what happened on the list vote and which of the groups, the pro-referendum independence parties or the anti-independence parties, won that one.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I know that what the honourable gentleman doesn't really want to focus on the election result, because in reality it was a failure for the SNP. Only weeks ago the SNP was riding at 58% in the polls, and we were told that 78 MSPs would be returned. I think the honourable gentleman was quoting those polls in this House on a regular basis. And what happened? The SNP moved forward by 1 seat. That's what happened, and that is not, in my view, a landslide or a major change in the political environment in Scotland. The Scottish Conservatives will continue to oppose nationalist plans for a damaging referendum that could wreck our recovery. However, over the next 5 years, my honourable friend from Murray has made clear that the party he leads will also not just be a party of no to Indy Ref 2. For the last 2 Scottish Parliament elections, the opposition has not been seriously contending to be in government. In 2026, after 2 decades of SNP government, the Scottish people deserve the right to choose a real alternative and end the obsession with independence. So strong as the result was for the Scottish Conservatives last week, starting from now, we are on the long road to becoming a broader movement and building Scotland's real alternative to the SNP. The honourable member for Murray will lead a patriotic Scottish party that has at its heart a belief that Scotland best succeeds and prospers by working within the United Kingdom. We will continue to be a strong opposition at Holyrood while aspiring to be an ambitious government dedicated to growing our economy, restoring our schools, rebuilding our communities and supporting our NHS. And today I say to anyone in Scotland who shares our dream of removing the SNP from power and delivering a real alternative focused on the priorities of the people of Scotland rather than a divisive referendum, join us in the Scottish Conservatives on that journey.